Excellent. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Miller, and I am the Director of the Enforcement and Compliance Assurance Division here at EPA Region 9. I'm pleased to be presenting today to talk about some of our priorities in Indian country. In the past, we've given a presentation about what our division does. But today I thought it would be better to present some of the stuff that we're working on, because there is a lot going on right now, and I wanted to share that with you and invite you to ask questions. I want this to be as interactive as possible. So, if there's things that are going on that you want to talk about, I'm more than willing to talk about it. Our division, what we do is we ensure that the federal environmental laws are being implemented and enforced. And so we work very closely with tribal governments to ensure that that happens. Our division doesn't provide grant funding, but we do work closely with our other divisions at EPA Region 9 in the implementation of environmental programs. So today, as I mentioned, I'm gonna cover a few priorities for the next year. And I'm gonna start off by first talking about drinking water. Drinking water is definitely our #1 priority. And with drinking water, we have many different things that we're doing on tribal land right now, ensuring that health-based violations are addressed, working with the water division. But today what I wanted to do was bring up a case study, and you can find out more details about it at a future presentation that Chris Chen and I believe Paula Band of Mission Indians will be providing some details. And what I wanted to bring this up because this was a little, I think it was somewhat surprising to find a drinking water system that wasn't being regulated. And I encourage all tribes that if you come across a mobile home park or a community that system's drinking water is not being, doesn't have a public water system permit, to let us know so that we can work with them and ensure that the water there is safe. So this is an example that happened at Paula Band of Mission Indians. And as many of you know, tribal land can be very, different pieces of land can be held in different ways. And sometimes things fall through the cracks, and we want to make sure that everybody's receiving safe drinking water. So this is a case that Paula Band let us know what was going on, and we issued an emergency order, and the facility is in the process of making sure that they're sampling and that they get the permit that they need. So I'm going to move on to some other hot priorities for us in enforcement and compliance. And feel free to ask questions as we go along, or we can leave questions to the end. And it doesn't have to be on these topics. It can be on anything. Okay, so one of our national priorities at EPA is significant non-compliance with the Clean Water Act and those who hold NPDES permits. This chart may look a little confusing, and I'll explain the chart in a minute. But the reason why we're focused on significant non-compliers is making sure that those who discharge into waters are not contaminating the water supply. So, we're looking at effluent limits, those who may not be reporting, as well as those who are under an enforcement order and are not complying. So we are working very closely with systems and tribal governments to ensure that systems are complying with their NPDES permits. Currently, the significant non-compliance rate is 25%, and our goal is to get that down to 10%. So there's 11 facilities on tribal land that are currently in significant non-compliance, and so we are working very closely with tribal governments to make sure that those systems are addressed. And sometimes that can be achieved through just technical assistance, but often we need to look at some long-term solutions and required an administrative order on consent. And so looking at this chart here, and I know it's a little bit cryptic, but this shows the universe of tribal systems. And okay, I'm having a hard time seeing because of my little boxes here, but the D is shows the percentage of systems that have discharge or effluent limits, non-compliance. The E is those that are out of compliance with their enforcement order. And I can't see what the other one is. It's blocked, ARG. Anyway, so the other one is the one that is the non-reporting. So you can kind of see the universe. And I may have them, actually I have them opposite. I think the one that I can't see right now, and I apologize, is the one that is those facilities that are out of compliance with an enforcement action. And I wanted to bring this to your attention because we do have orders in place with several systems, and when those systems are not in compliance with their order, we are having to escalate these, and we will work closely with the tribal governments and communicate with you when there are issues with the system not complying with the order that they've agreed to. So with that, I'm gonna move on to underground storage tanks. So we do continue to do a lot of work with tribes and conduct inspections of underground storage tanks. So we will be continuing to conduct our on-site. We have, because of the pandemic, we have begun to do off-site inspections. And in fact, we've done that with many of our programs, but I just want to be clear that we are in the process of getting back out into the field. And we will be communicating and coordinating with tribal governments to ensure that we understand whatever precautions need to be made. So inspections are happening, and you know, we are also providing information online and in person through US trainings. So those will continue to happen, and we will be providing those to tribal governments. And we are continuing to support the Native American Environmental Protection Coalition to conduct US inspections. So all of these efforts are continuing. We've just had to adjust, like with many of our programs, but I know that this is a significant program in Indian country, so I wanted to mention that. The last slide I have here today is just a slide about disinfectants. So with the start of the pandemic, we began to realize that there was going to be a high demand for disinfectants nationwide, and we are seeing that. And as a result of that, we are seeing a lot of fraudulent products out there. And many of you may know that products, pesticidal products, including disinfectants, are registered by EPA. We review the label, we look at the ingredients, we make sure for products that they're efficacious. And with the high demand, we're seeing a lot of fraud out there. We're seeing unregistered products. We're seeing products with false and misleading claims. And I ask if you all see these types of products to let us know, because we are definitely in the process of taking actions against these types of companies. So here's a few that we've seen. One is a disinfectant from Mexico. Clean is good. So, you know, seeing disinfectants out there, liquid disinfectants. The other one is a UV product. These are devices. They're not actually registered with EPA, but they can't make false and misleading claims. And to my knowledge, there's not a device that really has the data to show that it really works, including UV. And so be very careful with those kind of products. And, you know, another area is wipes. We're seeing a lot of wipes out there, and some of them may say that they have a certain percentage of alcohol or another ingredient, and in fact, they don't. So do let us know if you're seeing any of these. If you're getting contacted about what types of products to use, both the pesticide program and our compliance program, our toxics program, would be willing to work with you to help resolve those issues. So this is just a small sampling of some of the issues that we are dealing with in the Enforcement and Compliance Assurance Division in Indian country. And, you know, obviously we will continue to do our routine inspections and continue to work with you all as compliance issues come up. You know, we are eager to learn of what issues you face and how we can better support you. So with that, what I wanted to do is open it up to ask you what kind of issues you have, so that we can have a discussion and do a better job of working with you. So Jeanette, are there any questions?
So far, there are no questions, with the exception of whether this presentation be made available.
Sure, we can make it available. I'll figure out. I'll have my team figure out who to give it to make it available. It's short and sweet because I really wanted to make sure that we had time to talk.
And yes, if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. I'm just checking for any that I've missed. Okay, some are coming in now. From Brian, what percentage of inspections are complaint generated versus regular scheduled complaints?
That's an interesting question. I think it's going to depend on the program, but I would say the vast majority of inspections are based on our routine or targeted method of you know, identifying places to inspect. You know, often complaints coming from the public may not be something that we can directly address. Often there's a whole host of issues that are being raised that really can't directly be addressed through an EPA inspection. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be working with tribes to help figure out solutions. And so, you know, I'm very committed to work with tribes if it's a larger problem. And again, you know, if there are complaints that do warrant an EPA inspection, we will follow up.
Okay, and the next question, what are the steps that are taken when non-compliance is identified?
So when we conduct either an inspection or investigation, we are looking to determine if a facility or site is in compliance. And if we have evidence that indicates that a site is not in compliance, we will then proceed with you know, determining what is the best enforcement approach. For those non-compliance issues that are not significant, we may reach out and conduct compliance assistance. One thing I forgot to mention is if we do an inspection, we do provide a copy of the inspection report. We currently have a standard of trying to get those out within 60 days. And we provide some preliminary findings within that report so that people have a sense of what it was that we found. And also, just to back up even further, during an inspection, we do go over what, in a closing conference, what the preliminary findings are. So we try to communicate throughout the process to try to get people back into compliance if there is compliance issues. If it's significant, we will take an action. And again, our first priority is to bring a facility back into compliance. And, you know, if penalties are needed, we will then go through that process. And there's different approaches depending on the statute involved.
Okay, and from John Morris, do you have a list of disposal sites for pesticides, herbicides, etc.?
Well, you know, disposal of pesticides, the first thing you need to do is look at the label of the product and see what it says. It will have, you know, disposal requirements. Some containers need to be disposed of in a certain manner. Some have to be recycled. So that's your first step. And depending on what category the container it falls under, it could be solid waste, it could be a hazardous waste, it could be recycled, then you need to go that route. And you know, if you're talking about hazardous waste, there are hazardous waste you know, companies that will take waste and properly dispose of them. And we would be glad to help you figure that out.
There's a question from Jefferson. Do you guys actively investigate these fraudulent products, or do you only find out about them if a tribe thinks they are not getting the expected results?
So I think as listed in this last slide, you know, we have multiple things that we're doing right now with pesticides. And I'm just trying to get the word out to as many people as possible. So we currently are reviewing imports that are coming in, and we've denied entry to over 6.9 million illegal products. And most of the products are coming from abroad. So we feel like that's a very effective way to stop these products. But we do know that they're on the internet and being offered for sale. And so we have also sent out advisory letters to e-commerce sites. And we are engaging with states and tribes and territories to let them know that this is a problem. And if they see it, to let us know so that we can tackle these. And we have been issuing stop sales And we just I think this week settled with a company who was importing in illegal wipes for $200,000. So we take this very seriously.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to the next question. From Africa, my concern in regards to compliance with the worker protection standard is that in-person training is not being provided, and it is difficult, challenging to provide WPS/pesticide safety training to tribes via online.
Africa, you know, I am very, very concerned about farm workers in general. They are on the front line and face so many different challenges right now, whether it is COVID or just access to personal protective equipment. Here in California, we've been having a lot of smoke. So there is a lot of strain being put on them, and not getting properly trained on worker protections just adds to it. You know, I know that different organizations are looking at different approaches, and we would be glad to share with you some of those approaches so that tribes have, you know, can benefit from some of the various examples that people are using to tackle this. It's a challenge. I mean, you know, it is definitely important that they get trained on worker protection standards, and doing it video is not ideal. Absolutely. Oh, are you on mute?
Thank you. Just as a follow-up to that, Africa says thank you. And yes, there are resources, but acknowledging it is still challenging. Another question from Jefferson. Was there ever any negative impacts of those miscellaneous seeds people were receiving from China in the mail? Did EPA play any role in monitoring those seeds?
We did not play any role in monitoring those seeds. I did hear that USDA did test those seeds, and they didn't find anything, you know, it wasn't anything dangerous, I guess. But I have not heard anything recently about the seeds, other than USDA did finally complete tests and said that there was no harm.
From, let's see, a follow-up to that. So was China helping by sending seeds? What was that even about?
I have no idea. That is, I forget, because I did read an article and somebody had looked into why they were sending seeds, and I can't remember the rationale. That seems like so long ago when that was happening. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
The next question from Richard Black. Will you be offering UST or UST training for operators online? Our tribe is in need of this training. Thank you.
Okay, I do not know that. And again, you know, with all of our programs, whether it's the worker protection standard training and the underground storage tank training, we work very closely with our partners in our program divisions. And Richard and Africa, I will have somebody get back to you about options for both of those trainings, so that you know what the options are. So thank you for bringing that up.
Does anyone have need any clarification on these answers, just go ahead and put it in the chat box, or any other questions. Another one from Melissa. May I get the information on trainings as well? Okay.
You
And
got
we've
it.
been trying to get us training as well, but no luck.
I know there are a few, I did see a few people join from my division, and if anybody from the division wants to respond, please feel free to in the chat.
There's a question from Brian. In the past, Region 9 has submitted a one-page cheat sheet of how many inspections they do on tribal country. How many inspections under air, under water, under waste? Or how many inspections under air, water, waste? That type of information helps us with grants. Can you supply that in the future?
Yeah, we can definitely provide that. I know at the last tribal conference, I had that as a number, and I wasn't sure if that was useful or not. Obviously, this year the numbers are a little bit in shambles across the board, and I know we had planned to do a significant amount of inspections on tribal land in the summer, and all of those have been delayed. We can definitely put that together and share that with the RTOC, just so they have a sense of what we did complete this year. And one of the things we are keeping track of is when, so we have the on-site inspections, but we also have off-site inspections, which is us gathering information virtually and making compliance determinations that way. And we're trying new approaches on how we do that. So, and trying to figure out what is the best way to do that.
Just checking for any follow-up questions. There are some useful links going out, both about the seeds and mention of some trainings. So if you do have any specific links, or someone mentioned that they're on the US EPA agency site, there are some trainings. If you know of any specific ones, please feel free to post links in the chat so people will have access to those pages.
Well, there we go. There's an
Yeah.
training. Great.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop sharing here. So any other questions, any other concerns about compliance? I would be keen on knowing what issues you all face. Well, okay, so somebody asked a question.
About sharing the presentation?
Yes, I will definitely share the presentation. We'll figure it out. Okay, I see Mervin's question. Mervin was asking about how we are conducting compliance monitoring. And I will give a little bit more detail on this question. So when the pandemic first hit, we were not conducting inspections unless there was an imminent and substantial need, or there was something that was of extreme concern. So we were not doing any inspections for a period of time. That being said, we still had a significant amount of monitoring that we were doing, whether it was through reviewing reporting data from, like, say, wastewater treatment plants and drinking water, as well as issuing information requests and talking to various operators to determine how things were going. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have transitioned back into doing inspections. We have developed what we call a health and safety guideline that provides our inspectors with ways in which to be safe. We monitor the situation in various parts of our region. As many of you know, Region 9 is quite vast. So for instance, for a time period, although it's recently gotten, it hasn't been good, but for a time period, Hawaii was not having any positive results for coronavirus. And so we felt comfortable in sending our inspectors out. We have several place-based inspectors out there. So they were conducting inspections in June. And since then, things have gotten a little bit more intense, and so we've kind of pulled back. And so we're evaluating the situation as we go. We've recently conducted, I believe, an inspection on tribal land out in Nevada. We spoke to the tribe and went and conducted that inspection. So before we go out, we will be in contact with the facility to understand what type of requirements they have. And we will also contact the tribal government just to make sure that we understand any procedures they have in place. So we are doing some limited inspections. We are doing a lot more off-site compliance monitoring. And in fact, for us, we're on a fiscal year that ends September 30th. And although we did not meet our typical numbers of inspections, on-site inspections, we did make up that work in doing on-site compliance monitoring. So our numbers were pretty much the same. So.
If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box.
So one thing I know in the past that has often come up is how to handle issues around hemp, hemp and cannabis. And in the past, often we in the Enforcement Compliance Assurance Division, when you all have referred issues around cannabis, we have provided some guidance to you, but we have typically referred these to our Criminal Investigation Division and for follow-up, because often those issues involve some very challenging and potentially criminal aspects, dangerous. And so we've asked our Criminal Investigation Division to address those issues. That being said, recently we have worked with one tribe on an investigation and understanding what are the environmental issues there. And I just want you to know we will try to do our best to support you, because I know that those issues can be tricky. And I also think it's very interesting right now where you have you know, some states that allow cannabis, then there's legal hemp nationwide, but in order to grow hemp, you have to have a plan that's approved by USDA. So it's a very confusing area, and we will definitely help sort through some of those issues and try to provide as much technical support we can on environmental issues associated with growing this very confusing crop. You know, at the beginning of my presentation, I mentioned drinking water, and I believe Roberto is on the line. And if Roberto could put the time of Chris Chen's presentation in the chat box, I would really appreciate it. I forgot it. But I know Chris and others will be talking a little bit more about what happened at Paula. Okay, so there it is, 1:30 today. You can get down into the details on that Lee Bar Ranch issue. So hope you can join us this afternoon. Any other questions that people may have? Well, okay, I will give everyone their time back. And I appreciate you all taking time to come to the Enforcement and Compliance Assurance Division presentation. I have a couple of to-do items for Richard Black and Africa Avalos, and I will get back and see what kind of training we can get back to you, and then I will get to the R-Talk, the inspection stats for Region 9. So thank you everyone for taking time today to meet with us. So bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.